Very welcome to everybody to today's webinar, which is held on the European Citizens Initiative Forum. My name is Petko Georgiev. I'm the director of ProMedia, and I'm working with the European Citizen Action Service on providing support to European Citizen Initiative organizers and citizens via the European Citizen Initiative Forum, where we are hosting today's webinar. The webinar is dedicated to the topics of campaigning for European Citizens Initiative, with a special focus on the requirements of campaigning online, given the current situation of campaigning. And we have two very distinguished guests who are going to share their experience as campaigners. Let me first share with you my screen, and we can start with the agenda for the webinar. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do a very short introduction, and then we're going to talk with Olga Kiku from the End the Cage Age European Citizens Initiative, one of the 5 successful initiatives so far, which broke the records in terms of campaign support, in terms of number of signatures gathered, in terms of number of countries where the threshold for signature collection was met. Then we're going to talk with Maaike Hartwig of Change.org, one of the global campaigns, global platforms for campaigning, which has supported a number of very big initiatives encouraging citizen participation. And then at the end of the webinar, of course, there's going to be sufficient space and time for participants, for everybody to ask their questions. I would like to go now to our today's speakers. Olga Kiku. She is the head of the EU Office of Compassion in World Farming and Sustainable, and a substitute representative of the Citizens Committee for the End of Cage Age Citizens, European Citizens Initiative. Olga, today, hello to you. Can you say a few words?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm really glad to be here. It's been we've been working with ICAS for quite a while now, and it's great to see some of you again. I am working for Compassion World Farming, which is the largest farm animal welfare organization in the world. We work on farm animal welfare as well as sustainable food and farming. And I've been with the organization for a number of years, and we've been focusing a lot on lobbying at EU level. We are also we're mainly a campaigning organization, and we work with many other organizations on animal welfare, but also beyond animal welfare, on environmental issues, as well as
Thank you, Olga. We're looking forward to the discussion with you about the success of your initiative. Maaike Hartwig from Change.org, a senior campaigner. Hello to you as well. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. Yes, as you already said, I'm working as a senior campaigner at the world's largest petition platform, Change.org. And today I will give you some insights on what means online campaigning during the outbreak of COVID-19. And it will be quite concrete, so you probably could adapt it to your campaigns.
Thank you, Maaike. We'll get back to you both in a minute. Before that, I would like just to clarify a few logistical points with everybody who is online right now. Once again, very warm welcome to everybody. I would like to ask everybody once again, please turn off your video so we don't put an extra weight on the internet connection. And please mute yourself during the presentation so we don't have any ambient voices confusing with the speakers. The language of the presentation and of the discussion will be English. How to interact and to ask questions, of course, you can use, and I would suggest that you use the chat to ask your questions. They will be noted and I'll pick them up at the end during the Q&A session. And I want to assure everybody that this webinar is going to be recorded and it's going to be posted on the European Citizens Initiative Forum so that you will have access to it and to the presentations that the speakers are going to make, so you don't miss any details. Now, just a very brief introduction before we go into the details of campaigning about the European Citizens Initiative. The European Citizens Initiative is the first supranational instrument of participatory democracy. It allows for a direct impact by European citizens on the European Union's legislative agenda. It's based on an Article 11/4 of the Treaty on the European Union, as you can see, which stipulates that not less than 1 million citizens, nationals of a significant number of member states, may take the initiative on inviting the European Commission, within the framework of its powers, to submit any appropriate proposal on matters where citizens consider that a legal act of the Union is required for the purpose of implementing the treaties. Now, I will not go into the details of the legislative proposal, of the legislative background, because that was the purpose of, that was the topic of a webinar that we held here on the European Citizens Initiative Forum 3 weeks ago, and the webinar is available, but it's very important to point out that the proposals that are being made are within the framework of the powers of the Commission. I understand my presentation wasn't showing. I'm going to it right now. Just hold on a second, sorry for this. Let's go to a few of the campaigning challenges that we are going to address during today's webinar. Now, first of all, as we just mentioned, there is a need to gather a significant number of signatures, actually at least 1 million signatures. There is also a requirement that these signatures be gathered in a way that can be verified, both by the national authorities and by the European Commission. There is an additional requirement that those signatures should be gathered in at least 7 member states. So we're talking about campaigning on a pan-European level. And in addition, there is a requirement for a minimum threshold which has to be reached in every member state. So depending on the population of the respective member state, there are different numbers. For example, Germany, where Mikey comes from, requires 67,680 signatures at least, verified signatures at least. Greece, where Olga comes from, requires 14,805 signatures, and so on. There is also a fixed time frame. There is a certain period of time within those signatures need to be gathered, which puts an additional requirement on the campaigning planning and implementation. And finally, something which is recent, as we all know, because of the current situation, there is a limited number of public events that can be held. And that, of course, changes a part of the campaign. It puts a lot of emphasis on the way campaigning support is being gathered online. And of course, here we are facing a huge battle of attention. I'm sure everybody has experienced this through their own experience in the past few months. The number of offers online, the number of initiatives, challenges, messages that are targeting people online has increased because of the situation in which we are, and there is a huge battle of attention, which adds an additional challenge to campaigning. These are all broadly the questions that we are going to be addressing during the webinar today. Again, for any questions, please put them in the chat, and I will make sure that they get to our speakers today. So after this brief introduction, and in order to have a little bit more time for the speakers and for the Q&A sessions, I would like to go now to our first speaker, Olga Kiku from the KJH European Citizens Initiative, with my first question, asking you, Olga, to tell us a bit more about the initiative, about its success. What were the objectives? How did you set your targets? How did you plan the campaign? And what are your achievements so far? Olga, over to you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sharing my screen. I hope you can all see this.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. I'm going to take you through our and the CAGE European Citizens Initiative today, which started quite some time ago, actually. Let me just see this. Okay. Yeah. And I'll tell you a little bit about our organization. We're an international non-governmental organization. We started, our organization was established over 50 years ago by this man, Peter Roberts, who was a farmer and became disillusioned by the progress in animal farming, and that meant intensive animal farming, and started this organization, this small NGO at that time in the 1960s. But we moved on, and now we are an NGO with a considerable size of staff. But also we have worked a lot, and we have been part of the animal advocacy movement in Europe and elsewhere. The NDK ECI came about because we have been working for a number of years on the issue of intensive animal farming, or also called factory farming. And we decided to look at factory farming and point to one of the very, very basic symbols of factory farming, which is the cage. The cage enables the confinement of animals, and therefore that means that you can have many more animals in a small space, and restricts movement, causes a lot of suffering, both physical but also psychological suffering, and many millions of animals are restricted in cages throughout their lives, or at least part of their lives. So we decided to proceed, after learning a lot about what a European Citizens Initiative is and how we can use this tool. We decided to proceed with this. And as you can see, this is the CAGE ECI, and we call on the Commission to end the use of cages in animal farming. And specifically, we have listed in the ECI all the different species of farm animals who spend part or all their lives in cages. This is the situation in Europe at present. You have a number of species who are restricted in cages throughout Europe. The hens, we have a large number of hens, over 200 million of hens in cages, and that's 50. The slide says 53%, but there is a trend in recent years to move hens out of cages, to not necessarily in extensive farming in outdoor systems, but more in barns. However, this is still there is a trend, especially by businesses, and we see that now the number is close to 50%. So it's going down. Most rabbits, the vast majority of rabbits are in cages. Same for ducks used for foie gras production, and the same with sows. So overall, we have estimated around 360 million animals spend their lives in cages throughout the year, and this is a very conservative number. We've also done our homework. You can see here how the situation is for the 3 main species of animals in cages for hens, rabbits, and sows for every country in the European Union. We are also noticing that there is progress. In some countries, there are some bans or phase outs. So we want to make this Europe-wide trend. Our ECI started some time ago on September 11th, 2018, and it closed after a year. So in September 11th, 2019, we gathered over 1.6 million signatures and surpassed the minimum number of signatures in 21 countries. At this point, we are almost finished with the validation process. So we sent the statements to the member states, and almost all of them have validated. So we're down to, I think, one member state. And once this is done, we plan to submit to the Commission in autumn. We are now looking, because of COVID. COVID had, in a way, affected our work, because we saw that we had to postpone our plans, and we had to change our plans along the way because of the uncertainty around this pandemic. So we still plan to submit to the Commission, though, after the summer, so sometime in autumn, and hopefully pretty soon we will have the exact date. I cannot stress enough how important it is to do the right planning and to plan ahead. And by ahead, we mean at least 1 to 2 years prior to the ECI. Because there are so many issues that you need to look through and to make sure that everything works. So I'm going to go through some of them. One important point is that we cannot wait till the ECI starts, because the clock then starts ticking. So we cannot wait till that time to actually plan, but we need to do it long before that. Part of the planning process involved building a network of NGOs, and we did that mostly with animal welfare and environmental NGOs. We reached out to all countries in the European Union, and we are very glad that many NGOs joined. And we couldn't have done it without all these NGOs, and it was a joint project. And we are very happy that we had so many partners in this effort.
Well, I think it will be interesting to understand, how did you go about engaging these partners, and how did you coordinate the work with all these numbers? It's really a formidable, very large coalition, but probably carries additional challenges in terms of management of the campaign. Would you share that with us, please?
Yes, it is true, Petko. We have, once you engage with others, you need to coordinate well, you need to plan with them, you need to provide a lot of materials to your partners, given that many of the organizations do not have the time or the capacity to produce their own materials. So we had to work at many levels. Coordination is one important issue that needs to be considered. And that's an added reason why you need to plan ahead. And I cannot stress that enough. So given that most ECIs, and remember, this is the pre-COVID period, still, given that most ECIs now are basically the digital presence is important more than presence in streets and physical presence, events, etc. So we had to, besides our own website on the ECI, we went ahead and built websites for our partners. and shared these with them, whoever wanted to have their own website with their own logo, and it would directly be linked to the ECI. At the same time, we also created a lot of materials for social media, and we know how important social media is these days. So the online presence was very important, and we think that it's going to be more important from now on, given that all the restrictions we have with the pandemic, which is not going to disappear anytime soon. So besides, of course, the online materials, we created paper materials to distribute, and we did distribute a lot of these, and these are just a sample. We were also in a position to translate some of these materials because either we did this or or our partners did this, because a lot of times in many countries, the materials in English is not enough, and most NGOs in other countries want to have materials in their own language. And of course, we studied the ECI numbers, and we set targets, targets for how many signatures we need per country, for 1 million and 1.5 million and 2 million signatures. So of course, we always try to reach for as many signatures as possible. And of course, we also set milestones. We started with launch events. We also had a detailed calendar about what we would do every month for the entire year, and of course what we would do at the end of this 1 year period to celebrate the end of the ECI collection phase. With the network, so coordination, as mentioned before, is very important. And what does this coordination mean? Well, it means that you have frequent communication with your partners. It means that you share materials. It means that you give them updates. It means that you also connect with them and share information, discuss issues, and face challenges. And we had, of course, newsletters. We still have a newsletter which is sent out to partners on a frequent basis, on a regular basis. And there are also virtual calls, which again are becoming, all these are becoming more important because of the fact that we cannot meet in person and we cannot have physical events at this point. So here are some pictures from launch events that we had in different countries. And down at the bottom, you can see our big launch event in the European Parliament. This is the event that started the ECI. We started with this event, and then we moved on to events. And as I said before, we started in September, and throughout the month of October, we had events, national events, in various member states in cooperation with the organizations, with the NGOs in the network. And of course, as everybody knows, if you can use a celebrity, it's always good. So in France, we did have a celebrity, as you can see, Pamela Anderson, who cares a lot about animals. Same thing happened in other countries. We also tried to use local celebrities. On the top, you can see the Italian minister at the time signing the ECI. At the bottom, you can see events events in Brussels and in the Netherlands. The Netherlands also used a symbol of the campaign, which is this pig, which is a flying pig a statue. It was a piece of art, and we also used this for the end of the campaign event. At the same time, many of the organizations in the network did their own events, and you can see some here in Germany and other countries. And it was so wonderful to see all of them engage so much. The network was also very, besides physical events, the network was also very, very prominent and active in social media, which is very important. You can see I have some examples of how how the network, the work of the network on social media with tweets and in Facebook we were quite active. So it was. As you can see, everyone took part and made this their own campaign. It's very important to make people feel and to make organizations feel that this is not someone else's campaign, that this is their campaign.
I think this is a very important point that you're making, Olga, with the localization of the campaign and the involvement of the multipliers. If you are to sum up in just a couple of sentences, what is the key to the success of your initiatives? And of course, we'll go back to questions to you at the end of the webinar. But if you have to formulate it very briefly, what was the key to your success in terms of campaigning?
I think support. Enlarge your circle of supporters and the circle of organizations that are part of this campaign, and make sure that, as you said, you localize the content, you make people familiar with the campaign, but make it on their own terms, meaning they translate the material and they adapt it to their own to the situation in their own countries. Let's remind ourselves that this is not a Brussels campaign, that this is a European campaign. So every single country where you have support and where you want citizens to join and sign the ECI, you need to make people feel that this is an important issue for them. It's not just a Brussels issue. It is an issue that is important in their own countries. The support of celebrities, of course, is very important, and we know how the role they can play. So we try to engage with various celebrities. Mostly the celebrities were national celebrities in the member states, and so people can relate to them. And this is also part of the success, because they can bring a lot of others. So we have a multiplying effect in their case. And of course, frequent emails to spread the word, to make sure that everybody knows about it, and to keep in contact with all those who support the ECI.
Thank you, Olga. We're going to come back to you with specific questions at the end of the webinar. Now I would like to pass on the word to Maaike Hartwig from Change.org. Hello, Maaike, again. Could you tell us a bit more about Change.org? What is your approach to empowering citizens and to participate in the democratic process, and how do campaigns go?
Right. So, you just asked me about Change.org, and Change.org is the world's largest platform for social change with over 265 million users globally. And our mission is to empower people everywhere to create the change they want to see. And our vision is a world where no one is powerless, and creating change is part of everyday life. Change.org is available in 12 languages and has local teams in 18 countries. And we work like this. So we believe that to create a world where no one is powerless, we need social and political systems that ensure people everywhere to have a voice on the issues that impact their lives. And that means that we try to empower ordinary people to become powerful campaigners on the issues they care about. So Change.org is not primarily working with, for example, organizations who already have a strong network, but we focus on like ordinary people who aren't, involved that political yet, and we want to give them their voice. So we mobilize people to join together and to contribute their voice, time, and money to advance these campaigns. And of course, it's also a very important part of our work. We engage decision makers to compel them to respond to the public demand generated by each campaign. And so, as you already said, I'm working for Change.org Germany, and here you can see the whole team. It's amazing. Right now we're 25. No, since yesterday we're like 26 people. So we have a team who makes content. We have a fundraising team, and we have the campaigns team where I am part of. And as you saw, we are, Change.org is working internationally, but in the local teams, in the country teams, we're mostly focusing on the countries our teams are working from.
Thank you, Maike. How do campaigns work in normal times, and how did you have to adjust? How did you adjust your work to the COVID situation?
Yeah, that's a good point. So the Corona crisis presented online campaigning with special challenges, but also opportunities. So in Germany, more than 500 petitions have been started around coronavirus. And as you can see on this slide, we just collected them on a movement page. So you could just go there and you saw all petitions involving around coronavirus. And those are the three biggest campaigns. And the one on the left-hand side is asking for an unconditional basic income during Corona times. And the one in the middle is just asking for better conditions for people working in the health system. And so that's also what we just observed. So most petitions deal with the issues of economic justice and the German health system. Right. So as campaigners at Change.org, we dedicate much of our time helping petition starters on our platform escalate their campaigns toward achieving victory. Often this means helping them organize in-person demonstrations in public space. But when coronavirus and stay-at-home happened, we needed to get more creative in supporting twice as many petitions we saw on our platform. And one of these campaigns, I already told you, is this one started by a Berlin-based freelance fashion designer, Tonja Merz, asking for an unconditional basic income during Corona times. As one of many independent workers, she felt the economic burden brought by the pandemic, and she started this petition. As the campaign was progressing, we formed a network of supporters, which included other organizations in Germany that were active advocates for universal basic income even before COVID-19 happened. And together we decided to go a little bit creative and to try something new.
This is something really very interesting. Could you please go a little bit into the detail using this campaign to describe how do campaigns work? How do they run?
Sure. So as I already said, we built a network that was quite lucky because Tonja Merz, the petition starter, she was quite strong in network building. So just a few weeks after the petition was started in the middle of March, or in the beginning of March, there was like a strong network, including those two other organizations mobilizing for universal basic income since years. And so we decided that we would like to do something together. So the first point, it's very important, coalition building. You can't run such a big campaign on your own. So you need other organizations. And the best is to work together with organizations who are, for sure, working on this since years. So that was the first point. And then we knew we had like the capacities and we had the people which are really strongly involved. And so we wanted to try something new. And so we decided to just make a digital demonstration via Twitter. So, and so at the beginning, what was really important is to prepare it. So, and we also wanted to get involved all the people who supported the petition. So, Tonia Merz wrote out to them via her petition. There's the possibility to write an update, and so she could reach all her supporters and also via social networks. And she asked them, why do you need basic income now? And she told them there's a digital demonstration in the making, and she would use their personal stories and their personal needs via the digital demonstration to give them the voice, which they probably won't have via their own accounts. So that was the very first part, to get them involved and to collect the stories. So afterwards, we were really like program mapping the digital demonstration. So we started in the very beginning at the morning, so around 6 o'clock, but don't be afraid, you don't have to get that up that early, because you can just prepare the tweets, and there are programs online, and you can just prepare them in advance. But it's really important to start early if you want to have a whole day action via Twitter, because a lot of people just go up and the first thing what they do is to check their Twitter feed. And so it's really important that you already have content at that moment. So, and we really try to adapt something what is going on, like on a offline demonstration. So we had the very first beginning where we welcomed all the people joining via today. And then also in the middle of the demonstration, you can see it here on the slide, we had like a small video of Tonia Merz, the petition starter, where she just welcomed all the people and said that she is so lucky that so many people are involved, and just spoke out to them. So, and then of course it's really important to focus on engagement. So it's not working on Twitter if just one account is posting all the time, but nobody else is engaged. So it was really important to tell the followers during the whole day, like every 2 hours, how they can get involved. And secondly, it's also really important to have unique tweets, like unique content. And therefore, it was so helpful that we prepared the content just before. So we had all these personal stories and we could play them out during the whole day. And that was really, really helpful. And of course, it was really helpful not to do it just as one organization, but there were, the two other organizations. So there were a lot of traffic on the hashtag we just created for the demonstration. And it was really cool because we have been prepared like this. We had the opportunity for rapid response. That means we could just spot what is happening during the day. Maybe people are responding or just organically twittering under the hashtag. And so we could just respond to it. And it was so cool because one of the decision maker, the demonstration, the petition, addressed to is the German Ministry of Finance. Sorry. So you can see him on the left picture. And he was like, as a guest, he joined a quite famous YouTube talk show at the same day. And we just recognized it. And then we told all the users, please go there, comment your questions, ask for unconditional basic income or whatever is his opinion on it. And they did. And so he responded on this like YouTube talk show, and we had the capacities because everything was just prepared for the Twitter demonstration. So we could just cut a little piece of the video. You see it on the left-hand side. And could just, play it out to the people joining the demonstration. And so we could just tell, look how great it is. The minister already responded, and he saw your voice, not on the streets, but on the internet, on Twitter in this case. So to sum up the digital demonstration I was just talking about, what we did was, of course, We put a little bit time in it and real engagement. So we were able to, rapid response, and that's also very important. We prepared unique tweets. So what we got out of it was the first place of the German Twitter trends. You can see it on the right side for some hours. Then I already talked about it, the reaction of Germany's Minister of Finance. And that's also really important and really cool, an organic communication underneath the demonstration hashtag. So it wasn't just our content which was played out during the whole day, but also people just, typing on Twitter underneath the hashtag. And of course, and that's so important, especially during the times of COVID-19, during times of social distancing, this was a really, really important network element for the different organizations and the petition starter Tonja Merz on change.org to get connected and to feel connected upon one issue.
Maike, there is a question coming from Dorota here. Thanks, Dorota, for asking it. How do you, the question is, I'm curious if change.org is prepared to support campaigns that might be of the highest interest among people who are unlikely to use Twitter, for example, the elderly.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for the question, because that's exactly what we tried to do via asking the people in advance. So we didn't ask them just via Twitter for their personal stories, but we used, so Tonja Merz used the email newsletter of her petition, and the other organizations used their newsletter as well. So there were different possibilities. You could use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but you could also write us via email your personal story. And that was really great to see, because via this, we could also bring stories from people to Twitter who wouldn't attend because, yeah, like I just said, they're not active on the social network.
Thank you, Maike. The next question is, how do you translate this on a pan-European stage? How do you organize a pan-European campaign? What would be your recommendations and tips for that?
So, yeah. So, right, as I just told you, we're mostly focusing on local petitions, but of course we can connect to, or we are connected to the other change.org offices in other countries. And so actually, of course, I can't tell you what will always work, but every campaign, because every campaign is different, but there are some points you should regard. So, how to successfully run a new wide online campaign? First of all, have active people in every country the campaign runs. So that's already something Olga said. It's so important to connect the issue of the campaign to the people who live in the different countries, because always it's a little bit different, of course. Then offer local links and points of identification. So just, try to connect it to a personal story, for example, so it's even more easier for people to identify with the ask of the campaign. Then try to make complex issues as concrete as possible and give examples from different countries. Identify decision makers in every country so that you have decision makers in every country you can address. Build alliances across borders, that's for sure, you always need this. Then identify concrete counterparts for press, etc. So also when you're planning EU-wide campaigns, you also should think about press, online and offline. Be on the ground if it's possible. Go there, be there. If you have appointments with decision makers, with the press, if there are actions going on, try to be there. Then, of course, use simple language and use your own language. That's really important, that you're not like covering the language of famous influencers or something, but use your own language for your own campaign in the different countries. Yeah, of course, use the media your audience is using. That's also really important. So sometimes it can make sense to use Twitter, sometimes it can make sense to use Instagram, or just to use the local newspaper. And you should, really focus on what is really addressing your audience. Then it's also really important, spread news around the issue, not just around the campaign. That will make your challenge more relevant. I think that's a really important point, because if you really want to connect with the people and you want that they, go with you for maybe a long time, maybe years of campaigning, you have to really, make them feel that they can profit from your channels. And so you shouldn't just only provide them with information about a campaign, but maybe with issues related to it. And so it's getting more interested for them and even more easier to involve them. Then, of course, don't be confrontational with decision makers, but open a dialogue with them. And that's so important. Of course, that counts for every country. Get in contact with the media in every country the campaign runs. I already said that. Offer forms of action for supporters. That's so important. So in the best case, you offer different forms of action for different supporters. So they can just choose what they want to do. Maybe they want to come on a demonstration. Maybe they want to sign a petition. Maybe they want to give some money for the campaign. And so, offer those opportunities for them to get involved. Then Olga already also mentioned it, translate the campaign in as many languages as possible, because then it's even easier for people to feel connected if it's, for example, in their mother tongue.
I'm afraid we lost Maike there. Maike, can you hear us?
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, now it's fine. Please go on.
Okay. So I'm not sure where you lost me. But I think actually that I just finished my presentation.
That's great. I was just inviting the participants of the webinar today to now pose their questions. They have the opportunity to ask both you and Olga about any aspect of the campaigning for European Citizens Initiatives, or generally campaigning tips, campaigning tips for campaigning online, tips for campaigning during these times when
Sure.
physical events are not possible. Please, if there are any questions, now is the time to address them. All right, here is a question that I'm getting from Maria Teresa Flor de Lima. We have some mantras to get the attention of policymakers and mainstream media on the issue of campaign. This question is very important. So the attention of policymakers and the attention of mainstream media. How do you work on that? I think it's both for you, Maike, and for Olga as well.
Yeah, I can go first. So I think it's important to keep in mind that it's always helpful if you have something you can offer them, right? So it's not just you wanting them to maybe report about your campaign or respond to your campaign, but it's also them, for example, the media looking for a good story, or the decision makers also looking for a situation where he or she can just, have some, publicity, for example. So I think that's one point which can be quite helpful. So that's what I also meant with don't be confrontational, but open a dialogue. So you can just really reach out to them and ask them, for example, the decision maker, what would you need from us to respond to our ask? So I think that could be quite helpful just to ask. And then, of course, if that's not working, you should, organize some actions. They can't not look at it, right? So then they have to respond. And that's what we tried, for example, with the digital demonstration. But of course, there are so many stuff in the campaigning backpack you could use. And I think, that's for me. So Olga, maybe you want to add something.
Olga, you have experience with engaging policymakers. If you could tell us a few words about that.
Yes, I think the first thing we do is we see who the audience is and who we want to influence. Do we want to start a campaign just for the public, or do we want to influence policymakers? In our case, we wanted to eventually influence policymakers. So the ECI is a bit different. You collect signatures, but you have a purpose, you have a goal in the end, and that is to be able to influence policy and to pass legislation. Therefore, you need to learn to speak their language, and you need to, in a way, adapt everything you do and how you talk to them, your message, the alternatives you present. You want to ban something, okay, but what do you propose instead? Therefore, you need to present this vision, and you need to be serious. You need to, especially if we are talking about policymakers, you need to have science with you, and you need to have the public with you. These help. If you are talking to media, then it's a different story. You need to create a story around your campaign. You need to make it more relevant for them, and you need to make it current. You need to draw attention on this particular issue. So you need to see who you want to target, and then accordingly you shape the campaign.
Thank you. There is another question. How important are promoted campaigns, paid campaigns on social media? How much would you recommend using that? To both speakers.
Oh, if I can say this very quickly, yes, it is important in some cases, not always though. It helps, but it is not a make it or break it situation.
Maike, did you want to add something?
I agree. So I'm not part of the social media team. So actually, I'm not the expert to answer this, but I totally agree to what Olga just said, that it's, of course, it can be really helpful, but I think it won't decide about the victory of a campaign.
The next one that I see, Olga, probably that will be you, which is the minimum and the efficient number of team members for an efficient initiative, but also for you, Mike, as well.
Well, you need to have quite a few. It's but we need to remember that it's not just usually it's not just one organization, one NGO that will do, but it's the power is in getting a group of other organizations that will help. So I do not have a specific number to give you, but I think we need to also remember that the more people we have on board and staff or people working very actively on something, the more needs for coordination, and this can take a lot from the campaign. Meaning, time-wise, you need to spend the time on coordinating, and that should not be disregarded. It does take a lot of time. So the bigger you are, the better chances you have. But on the other hand, it also creates a lot of commitments from your side to be able to deliver.
Well, I think that directly links to a couple of questions that we have here about funding. Jakub is asking, how do you raise funds, especially during these times? I feel like there is a bit of reluctance to give away money for purposes like the European Citizens Initiative. And there is another question coming from Armand. What if I have some ideas but no money or people? Is it possible to simply share ideas with existing groups or join them? What would be your approach to funding campaigns like that?
Yes, in our case, because we were working on, and today I am referring to the ECI in particular, we had to plan for this. That's why we took quite a bit of time, over a year, to make sure that we have the funds, that we have the capacity, that we do also have alternate plans when things are not working well. And referring again to a European Citizens Initiative, usually in the beginning, there's a lot of action, there is momentum, and usually you have a good number of signatures in the first month or two. But then when the signatures start going down because there's less interest, you need to have a plan B and a plan C to be able to deliver in the end. So preparation is very important, and funding is also part of this. So this needs to be taken care of, and it needs to be well organized well before you start the European Citizens Initiative, not during.
Okay, over to you. Michael, over to you.
Yeah, I would just answer the second question, if that's fine. So what if I have some ideas but no money or people? Is it possible to simply share ideas with existing groups or join them? Yeah, for sure. So I think having the idea is the first and the most important step. And then secondly, you should look out for people you can connect with on the issue you want to campaign for. So, and therefore you can just, use, for example, platforms like Change.org, of course, but there are also other ones. You could just use them so you don't have to build something up from the very ground. And there you will also find people who are going to help you, give you advices on campaigning, for example. And for sure, I think it's always easier to, to just connect with already existing groups and to look how you can support them so that not like individuals are all campaigning for themselves. Because most of the time there are already people, mobilizing for a special issue. And I think that would be the best to connect with them and to try to make it even bigger and more successful.
Thank you. There is a question from Francesco Zaletti. What would be the biggest mistake in your understanding and experience? What's the campaign's biggest mistake? Something that you should definitely avoid? Both of you.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't like that much to call it mistakes, because as I just showed you, you also need to be quite creative while you're campaigning, and that's also what Olga just said, and you also need to be quite flexible. So, but I think what is really helpful at the beginning and during the whole time is to have a clear aim and to have a clear ask of your campaign. So I think if you do not have this at the very beginning, it will be quite hard to find supporters, to reach out to media, to reach out to decision makers. And maybe that's one advice I would like to give you, to be quite clear what do you want to achieve, and then you can find the ways on how you will achieve it.
One final question. We don't have time for more. Of course, we can continue the discussion, and I would encourage everybody to continue this discussion on the specialized discussion part of the European Citizen Initiative Forum. But there is a question that I think Olga would be best positioned to reply. What is your estimate? How many of the signatures are usually collected within the first 2-3 months of the campaign?
Well, it depends on the ECI, but usually the first 2 months, I would say, you have an unusually high number of signatures. Don't expect that you're going to have the same number throughout the year. So you should expect to have many more in the beginning, but a very important factor of the initiative is to make sure you maintain a good number of signatures throughout the year, not just in the beginning. But you can, in some ECIs, this means probably a few 100,000 signatures collected in the first 2 or 3 months. But then the number usually drops.
Thank you, Olga. I'm afraid this is all the time that we have for today. And thank you very much for your presentations and for your active participation to everybody who was online. I would just like to direct you and to recommend to you to explore a bit deeper the European Citizens Initiative Forum. There is a lot of information that can help you with additional campaign advice. There is also the option for everybody interested to ask for specific tailor-made campaign advice, and one of the experts who is working for the European Citizens Initiative Forum would get back in touch with people who have interest in developing their campaigns, help in developing their campaigns for European Citizens Initiative. So do use these opportunities. There is also quite a lot of examples of testimonials, examples, videos, presentations of people who have made success with their campaigns, including the 5 European Citizens Initiatives that have been successful so far. So please go ahead, use all this information which is available on the forum, use the information which is available on the main portal of the European Citizens Initiative. There is also a huge wealth of information there. And we're looking forward to talking to you in the future and to discussing and supporting your initiatives. At this point, I would like to thank you very much for joining us today. And one final request, which will really help us a lot in the future. You can see the link on screen right here to our feedback form. It would be great if we could hear from you with more suggestions and more questions. And again, stay in touch, pose your questions. We are here to try and help. This is all from me. Have a very nice day, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.